was doing the worship time, I thought I would go old school and actually print my message out again and do it by the paper instead of the iPad. So let's see how it works this morning. I know. I looked at this morning and it had 10%, so I can't trust it. Why not get through the message at 10%? But we're ending up in the parables this morning before we get into the Advent season. And tonight, or this morning, we're looking at Luke chapter 15. So if you want to grab your Bibles and open up to Luke chapter 15. And this morning, I think, what a way to, you think about messages and when you're going to do them and how you're going to do them. And you're wondering how God leading me this way. And I really believe He led me to this one, especially at this time. Because it's about reaching the lost.
Amen. Come on.
And what a way to be thankful to God than to be able to reach someone that's lost.
That's good.
I'm taking a class in declaring the gospel of God right now. And one of the things that they mention in there that evangelism or reaching out, whatever you want to call it. I know some of you start to sit down in your pews and you say evangelism. That means Pastor should go out and talk to people. But it's the if you ask people in the church, that's probably the commandment they say we need to do. But it's also the least thing that's done in the church.
Yeah.
And I think sometimes we think it's all about going and standing on a street corner with a sign, John 3:16, and preaching to people walking by. That's not what that is. When I think of evangelism, I think of living my life as an example to Christ. So that someone's going to come up to me and say, why are you that way? And it gives me an opportunity to share Jesus with them. Amen. That's what evangelism is to me.
That's good.
And there's so many times I know that someone's come up to you and has talked to you, and God put in your back of your mind going, man, I should tell him about you. And then you go, well, all this is going on in your head, because that's what me too. You're going, no, God, I can't do that right now. I can't tell him that. Not right now. We're at the ball game, the tie score, I can't tell him. I just urge you to place it in your heart when God nudges you to do that, just to share Jesus with you. You don't need to know the Bible. You guys know enough to be dangerous.
Come on now.
Because you guys have experienced Him. And you know what He's done for you in your own life.
Amen.
And He just wants you to share the story He's given you with somebody else. And what a way to be thankful to Him to do that. I used to travel a lot. I used to fly a lot. I mean, they would get me on the plane. I'm a traveler who likes to get in the plane, get to my seat. I always like to sit against the window so I can, I like to board first. I used to because I had enough miles I could be pre-boarded for. I even got on before the screaming kids. I flew so much. and I would get to my seat and I would just put my head against the window. Not asleep, but just pretending to be, because I didn't want to talk to the person that was next to me. Yeah. I know it goes against what I just said, but stay with me here. But every time, every flight I took, I could probably be a steward or a stewardess because I knew once the doors shut, they back the plane up, they start pushing it out towards the runway, and the stewardess would get up and they would talk about flotation devices and air things coming down. Make sure all your seat tray tables are forward and locked before we take off. I can probably give you the words even. It's been quite a few years since I've flown, but I can give you the words. I always paid attention. I don't know why I did, but I always did. Because I guess I always had this little thing in me that, well, just in case. I wanted to make sure I was covered. I knew what to do. But you look around the plane and people were just doing whatever. They weren't even paying no attention to the stewardess. They were just doing what they were doing. Some people even had their tray tables down looking like, we're taking off, buddy, put the tray table up. I wonder, what the hell am I here, And I think about that, and I wonder, why do they do that? And I came up with a couple of reasons. For first one, I think, is is they probably don't think it's relevant to them. They don't care. You know, the plane's going to get there. I just got to get through this and get through and be done with it. And the other thing is you know what? Most of them are probably like me, and they've heard it before. So why do I need to hear it again? And so when I start thinking about this whole flying business, you know, it's much like evangelism. It's a lot like reaching the lost. The ways we do it or the ways we think it should be done aren't relevant to the person, or they don't believe it's relevant to them when we talk to them.
That's good.
And the other thing is, you know what? They heard it all before, and they don't care. And so what that does to us is it puts us in a place where, you know what? We start judging people like, oh, they don't need to hear it. No, she doesn't need to hear it. No, but he does. You know, we need to be sensitive to God and allow God to lead us in those ways. And so this way that we, you know, how are we going to reach the lost? What does it mean to reach the lost? You know, I think sometimes people that we try to reach, you know, they've heard it all before. And we need to find new ways and new, you know, we shouldn't stop. You know, why do we stop? You know, sometimes I don't think the old ways work. We need to think of new ways to do it. I'm writing a paper now on social media and evangelism. What's the effects of it? That's a new way to evangelize, is social media right now.
Yeah.
So how do we reach people? You know, we have a website. Are we reaching people? When's the last time you talked to somebody about Jesus? Or when's the last time God placed it in your mind to talk to somebody and you didn't? I mean, this message of salvation that we have, this is so needed in the world today as we see everything that's going on in the world. And it's our message. It's what we do. It's what we're called to do. It's the commandment. It's at the core of who Jesus was. You know, if you look at all his whole life, look at the Gospels. That's what he did. He woke up. He evangelized. He went back to bed. Woke up. Evangelized. That's what he did. And he's commanding us to do the same thing. And in Luke chapter 15, there's 3 wonderful stories that Jesus gives us concerning his lost people. He tells about the lost sheep is the first one, the lost coin, and the lost son. In Luke chapter 15, I'm going to read out the Message translation this morning. It says, by this time, a lot of men and women of doubtful reputation were hanging around Jesus, listening intently. The Pharisees and religious scholars were not pleased, not at all. They growled. He takes in sinners and eats meals with them, treating them like old friends. Their grumbling triggered this story. Let's stop here just for a moment. The church, the religious establishment, couldn't handle Jesus. Because every time they turned around, he was spending time with sinners, lost people, and the unchurched.
Oh, how horrible.
And they didn't like it. You know the reason they didn't like it? Because they wanted Jesus to hang around them. When he saw how upset they were with him for hanging out around these people, Jesus began to tell them a story. Let's go down to verse 4 in chapter 15. He says, suppose one of you had 100 sheep and lost one. Wouldn't you leave the 99 in the wilderness and go after that lost one until you found it? When found, you can be sure you would put it across your shoulders, rejoicing. And when you got home, call your friends and neighbors, saying, celebrate with me, I found my lost sheep. You can say it this way too, there's more happiness in heaven because of one sinner that turns to God.
That's right.
Than over the 99 good people who don't need to. So what can we learn just from that? And that's a simple story. We all know it. What can we learn from the lost sheep? The first thing that hit me was Jesus initiates reaching the lost. He's the one who goes out. He's the shepherd. He tells the story of how he left everything and he went out to find the one that was lost. On his own. He's the one who went after it. That tells me that the lost sheep did not find the shepherd. But the shepherd went out and found the lost sheep. Yeah, praise the Lord that the shepherd found me.
Amen.
Yeah.
He found you.
Yeah.
As you were lost. See, God doesn't expect lost people to find us. He doesn't expect us to open our doors and people just walk in and they get saved. That's not, he expects us to go out and find them. Bring them in. It's our responsibility. It's the commandment in the Bible. It tells us. It's the Great Commission to go out into the world. I think if we're going to have a true heart for reaching lost people, it's our responsibility to go out and to find them. If we're supposed to be the church, his church, that's what we're supposed to do.
Yeah.
You know, I truly don't believe I don't think it has anything to do with doing big evangelism events, revivals. I don't think it has anything to do. We can have all the revivals in the world, and it's not going to do anything good if you're not going to go out there and invite people to Jesus. And you're wondering, well, where do I go look? You don't even need to look. I read a thing in a textbook this week that says, you know, the problem with us is we're trying to invite Jesus into what we're doing. Well, God's already busy doing his work. We need to catch up with him and find out where he's doing the work and invite ourselves into what he's already doing.
Come on.
I'll give you a secret if you really want to lead someone to Christ. I'll give you a secret how to find somebody. How many want that secret?
Right?
Okay, right this moment, I'm going to take 15 seconds. And I want you to pray right now and ask God to place people in your pathway that you can share Jesus with. Right now, take 15 seconds and do that. This is that important. And not only when they're in your pathway, make sure you add in your prayer that you just don't let them go by you, but that you talk to them. Because they're going to give you an opening, but you're going to have to talk to them. Next thing is, lost people are a top priority to Jesus. And we know it because he left the 99 to go find the one. It was his top priority. I read of a pastor recently who, every board meeting, he starts just by saying it, so board members be ready for this one, next board meeting. He said, we met here tonight to reach people. And every decision we make as a board will either help us in this cause or hinder us. And I started to look at what we're doing better. But there's some things we still do that have nothing to do with reaching people.
Yeah.
And we need just to get rid of all that luggage that's holding us back. We need to set it aside and begin to look at the things that are going to reach the lost. That's the commandment. That should be our number one desire. That should be the one thing that's right in front of us that we always are trying for.
That's good.
This is the central theme of the gospel, who Jesus is. And sometimes I know you look to the pastor or look to the leaders of the church to do this. I think what happens in so many churches, though, I think what happens is they go out and they begin to evangelize a little bit, and they get a few people coming in that are new, and they start to feel, okay, this is good. We don't want any more. It might upset what we're doing here. You know, I like where I sit every Sunday, and I like the way the music is. And, you know, I like pews. I don't want chairs. Did I say that again? I didn't say that. You know, I want it this way. Well, my old district superintendent, he always used to tell me and talk to me about. You say, you're doing a pretty good job there. I go, well, thank you, but my boss is the one who I want to hear from, not you. And so I try to listen to him in all these things. But sometimes we can get comfortable. We can feel like that we're this happy family, that we're just okay. And I think, personally my fault, for a while here, we've just been going through the motions, doing church. We've come in and we've left. We've come in and we've left. Without any true direction, without any true looking, what are we doing? What's our message? What's our priority here?
Yeah.
It should be to reach people. Thirdly, there's a celebration when the lost sheep is found. Whenever that which was lost is found, there's always rejoicing. Lots of celebration. The Lord talked about it as he put the sheep on his shoulder and brought him back to the community. The Bible talks about rejoicing the sinner that repents. And so there should be celebration in that. Then we move to the story of the lost coin. You move to chapter 15 still, verse 8 through 10. It says, or imagine a woman who has 10 coins and loses one. Won't she light a lamp and scour the house, looking in every nook and cranny until she finds it? And when she finds it, you can be sure she'll call all her friends and neighbors. Celebrate with me, I found my lost coin. Count on it. That's the kind of party God's angels throw every time one lost soul turns to God. Celebrate with me. You see, in here, what I learned about in this story, you read these stories over and you start to look at them. Because sometimes we just go, we're like the person sitting in the plane. Sometimes we read these parables and we just kind of go right over them and don't really dig into them. We're like the person sitting in a plane listening to the steward, right? Take time and really read the word and then put yourself in there. Where do I fit in there? When I read the Bible, that's what I try to do. Where do I fit in there? Yeah. And guess what? God usually tells me where I fit in. And I usually tell him, no, I can't be. And he says, yes, you are. No, yes, we go through that all the time. Okay, so I'm no different than you. But he always wins. You see, the thing I learned here is Jesus cares about quantity. I hear so many pastors say, you know what? Yeah, we haven't grown too much, but we're lots more spiritual growth. I used to say that. Spiritual growth is good. But if you have spiritual growth, wouldn't the ones that are growing spiritually go out and reach the lost? And wouldn't you have quantity?
Come on now. That's good.
So if you don't have spiritual growth, you're not going to have quantity. Quantity is important. Jesus showed 99, whatever, get the one. Lost one coin. He cares about the numbers. He cares about the lost. And I think it's more than even numbers. It's just making sure that there's always going to be one out there that's lost. I think that's the message here. That we can't tire ourselves or get down or get discouraged. You know, I know many of you have spoken to many people about visiting the church. And let me stop here just for a moment. When you talk to somebody about Jesus, I don't even want you to mention New Heights Nazarene.
Yep.
Don't even mention your church. Because reaching them and inviting them to Christ has nothing to do with this church. Because I think people, sometimes when they're invited that way, they think the church saved them.
Yeah.
The church can't do nothing for them. God does the saving work, not the church.
Yeah.
You're the workers. You're just on the sideline. You're bringing them in. God's doing the saving, not you. And so don't even bring it up. I don't. I don't care. As long as they go somewhere.
Yeah.
As long as they get saved somewhere and they're attending somewhere. That's the thing. Don't you think if we do that, God's going to bless us and
Amen.
Open the doors and the people are going to wonder, well, why didn't he ask me to, he's the pastor, he didn't even ask me to come to his church. Because it's got nothing to do with me or the church. It's got everything to do with Jesus Christ as a saving power, not me.
Amen.
I can't do it. So talk to him about God, about Jesus, what he did for you on the cross, what he's doing for you today. That's what you need to talk to him about. Not, oh, our church is so wonderful, everybody loves each other, we have this, we have that. Forget all that. Share Christ with him and his love for you. All those other things will come down the line. There's a story that's told when you get to heaven, you're going to be asked 2 questions. Uh-oh, you better get a pen and pencil out. The first question is, I'll go slow here so you can write it down, okay? Did you come alone?
Wow.
Wow, that hit me.
Wow.
I walk through the gates, God's there, hey, Pastor Don, did you come alone? You know? Well, you know, then we stimmer around, well, we're trying to make excuses. God already knows. God already knows all those people He put in your pathway and you didn't say anything. God already knows all the people He put in your pathway and you did say something. And you were always wondering whether you never saw them again. But you turn around and you see Him in heaven because you said something.
Amen.
It's about you just doing what God's asking you to do. He's the saving one, not us. Okay, you guys ready for the second one? Now, the first one was bad enough. Let's go to the second one. Because most of us, a lot of Christians, what they say is, yeah, God, I came alone. Well, here's the second question. Why?
No.
And you stammer around again for another 15 minutes trying to explain why. When you read these stories, when you read the gospel message, you can see the heart that Christ has for lost people. And if we truly have Christ in us and we truly want to live our life for Him, we should have that same heart, that same desire to reach the one that's lost. Second thing is about the lost coin is Jesus persistently searches. He never gives up. Praise the Lord that He doesn't do that. He always searches. He never stops. Did you notice when the lady lost her coin, she didn't stop. She turned on the light. She did everything she could to find it. She put everything else aside. I want to find it. Maybe sometimes you don't find it the first hour, maybe even the second hour, or the first day, but she keeps looking for it until she finds it. And there's people in our life that same way. That first time you talk to them, they didn't come to church, you get all depressed by it. Don't. God's going to give you an opportunity. It's going to work out. Just be sensitive. Discern what He's trying to tell you. Just follow that. And if you just do what He says to do, you're off the hook. You got ding in heaven for yourself. You did what you asked Him to do. You did it. You know, it's interesting when you begin to really study the Bible. If you look at the Lord's healing ministry, in 34 out of His 40 healings, the people who needed healing did not find Jesus by themselves. Either Jesus found them, or someone brought them to Jesus. They were hurting people, and they needed someone to bring them to the presence of God. The survey I just recently read, done a few years back, about how people came into relationship with Jesus Christ. And this is one of those sitting in the airplane. Most of you have heard or seen this already once or twice. But I think we need to be reminded by it. 1% came through evangelistic crusades or revivals. 4% through church programs. 4% through Sunday school. 5% of them would just walk in. 8% because of the pastor. I thought she could go higher than 8%. So. And 76% through friends and relatives. When I look at those numbers, I think about how I was brought to Christ. Because I wouldn't have found it unless I had a good friend that day. And it wasn't through the Bible. It wasn't through coming to church. It was, you want to play basketball with my brothers at church? Sure. It sounds like fun. And once I got in the door, God got hold of me. And that person You look at their family and the way they were raised and all they saw them, I thought, man, all the circumstances they did, because both their parents died at a very early age, and their sisters took care of the family. They had like 8 in the family. Finally, 5 brothers and 3 sisters, I think they had. And they didn't have a care in the world. They were all taken care of. They didn't have a lot. They had God. And I wanted that. And I wouldn't have known that unless they would have invited me to play basketball, invited me to go over there to dinner with their family, not talking about church or God or nothing. They never brought it up. I'm the one who asked, why are you guys this way? Why is it, all this is going on, you have no parents anymore? How did this happen? I get emotional because it brings up some memories of that family, of what I saw, how God worked in them. I said, you know what? I want some of that. I grew up just the opposite. I had a great family. There was that one thing that was missing that I wanted. And they persisted searching for me. They didn't give up. They kept inviting me to things, involving me in things. I remember, hey, you want to go to Disneyland? Yeah, sure. It's only this amount of money. Oh, it's only that amount of money? Sure, I'll go. When I get there, it's Christian night at Disneyland back then.
Class.
So what do I hear? All the Christian bands, I'm with all the Christian kids. Like, wow, it was like little by little until I finally surrendered to Him. That's evangelism. That's how I look at it.
Yeah.
I was laughing with Paul here on Tuesday or last week or last Friday or whenever we were playing basketball, and he was talking about how he came back to Christ, and I kept thinking of Paul because he loves football. And I say, see that guy, every field goal that the 49ers kicked, that guy in the back with the clown head on was John 3:16. And Paul started that thing for 10 years until he finally came back to Christ. So you look about persistent, you don't think that guy doesn't do a good job of evangelism? Because he stood there and you remembered it when I talked about that. Yeah, wow. We don't know how much that did, but you know what? He stared at every field goal, every extra point. He stared at that thing. That guy since passed away, by the way. That farmer used to do that. And thirdly, on the lost coin, again, there's a great celebration when it's found. And then lastly, learning from the prodigal son, the lost son, learning from him and from that story. And we all know the story, how he took his inheritance and went away and realized, life wasn't so good on the other side and lost everything and decided I need to come back. And so from this story, I learned that God's love is patient.
Amen.
He's patient with us. God's willing to wait. He's willing to allow us to run our course, knowing that we're never going to rightfully come home until we're done doing what we think we need to do. But on the other side, while God is patient, He's waiting expectantly for those that are lost to come home. Don't make the mistake that God's patience is Him not caring for you because He cares deeply for you. And we know that the Father, we know that God is watching, because when you look at that parable and you look at the Father was standing probably in the porch and He looked out and He saw His son from a distance coming in. So don't tell me that God isn't out there expecting, waiting for the lost to come back, because He is. You see, there's 3 kinds of lost people we looked at this morning. The coin represents the people who are lost and have no clue. They don't know. And it's good to know who we're talking to and how God's going to use you. And literally, there's probably tens of thousands of people in our area that are lost and don't have a clue that they're lost. Secondly, the sheep represents the people who are lost and know it, but don't know how or what to do about it. And they're out there lost. Think of that lost sheep that goes out and they get so far that they don't know how to get back, but they want to. You're going to run into those also. And number 3, the prodigal represents people who are lost, and they know it. And they know what to do about it. The prodigal son says, I know what I'm going to do. I'm far away from home, but I'm going to go to Dad's house. I'll go and tell him I've sinned against him. See, he was lost. He knew he was lost, and he knew what to do about it. Here's what's interesting about these stories. The only one that Jesus didn't go after was the third one.
Yeah.
This one who was lost knew he was lost and knew what to do about it. I think we need to take that and think about that and how we and who we're going to reach. So how do you respond to all this morning? What's your perspective on it? What did you get? What is God trying to show you? In my study of it, to be someone who's going to reach the lost, what am I going to have to do? Well, let me share with you 4 things that are required to be a redemptive person. And redemptive means saving a lost person. So what do I have to do to be a redemptive person? First of all, you got to make a decision to make it a priority in your life. And for those of you who prayed that 15 seconds, that's your first step. Pray about it. Oh God, I want to do this. I'm not sure how to do it, when to do it, who to do it, but I'm there. I'm willing. Sign me up. And He will. And then when that person comes in front of you, you're going to go, oh darn, he did what he said he's going to do. Now what do I do? Do what I do. I pray right there in my head. I go, Lord, help me say what I got to say. I'm not sure. He'll give you the words. He'll give you the ways. Be who you are. Don't try to be somebody else. You listen to a lot of, I listen to other pastors and sometimes I get caught up, I want to be like him, and you start preaching like that, No, he wants to be, I forget the guy, he wants to be, he's the big heavy guy, the block preacher, T.D. Jakes, and wearing a big suit. Oh, come on, Lord. I can't do that. Be myself. Be yourself. God created you uniquely with certain strengths, with certain abilities and talents. For that one person He's got right over here that's going to come down inside your pathway. And He just wants you to share what He's given you. So you're already equipped. You just got to go for it. Second thing is preparation. You need to understand what it takes to reach the lost. I hope I shared some of that with you. Don't get discouraged if they don't come to, darn, Pastor Ed talks to me, they didn't come to church today, I'm so depressed. How do you know they didn't go to church this morning? You don't. Just do what God asks you to do. Third requirement is you need to be accountable. You need to have some accountability. Lord, I'm going to do this, and know that you're accountable for it. That's what you call for. That's what you were. A lot of us think, well, I'm a Christian and I'm going to have peace and joy. That's what I want. Yeah, that's good. Yeah, that's a remnant of it. But you know what? The only reason you were saved is to save somebody else.
Right.
That's really, if you really cut all the junk out, that's why God saved you, so you could save somebody else. And fourthly, make it a continual focus. Don't get discouraged. Keep it going. There's a tendency, either when people aren't responding to you or when you get a big response. Oh man, I brought 3 to church this month. I can take a break.
That's good.
You can't take a break. Imagine if the three people before God saved, and you were the fourth. God said, "Now I got to take a break. I'm number 3," and you were the number 4. I'm sorry, I wouldn't want God to take a break either. So don't. And you're thinking, well, it's going to take a lot of energy, yeah? But it's in His strength. Yeah, He's going to do it for you. You just got to be the vessel there that does it for Him. I think what it comes down to is being the salt and light of the world. And to let your light shine, I think you got to be salt. I read this analogy this last few weeks. I want to share it with you. I think it goes with what we're saying this morning to kind of help us of how do we do this. So the S in salt stands for show love. Just start loving on people. Do something for them that they wouldn't think, well, why are you doing that?
Yeah.
I don't know what it is. You might know what it is. Maybe it's cutting your neighbor's grass. Maybe it's making a meal and taking it over to him. I don't know what it is. God's going to give that to you. But just start loving some people. And then once you get that opportunity to, when He's in front of you, there's people in front of you, start asking questions. No answers, just ask questions. It's about the only way you're going to find out about them. And as you ask them questions, God's going to begin to give you information that He wants you to share with them by the answers they're giving you. I heard one pastor that when he talked to, he did it on hospital visits. He would go in and he'd visit the people he was supposed to visit. Then he would visit a couple other rooms, and all he would say is, "How are you feeling about Jesus today?" And that's how he got his thing going. And he figured out a way that works for you. Thirdly, you got to listen. Once you ask the question, you got to listen to the answer so you'll be able to respond correctly to them. And you're going to find that people have these holes and these needs and these longings for more. There's something in them that there's more. And they've looked several places for the answer. And right here in your heart, in your back pocket, guess what? You have the answer. Jesus Christ is the only one that can give them the peace and hope that they're looking for. That's it. And after you listen to Him, that's when you get the opportunity to turn the subject toward Jesus. You're going to find all kinds of opportunities to do that once you begin to talk to Him. And don't you think it's worth a shot? Don't you think it's our responsibility? Don't you think it's something that we can't lay aside? It's our duty. It is. It shouldn't even be a duty. It should be a want because of what Christ did for you. Amen. He prepared somebody in some church somewhere, sat and listened to a message or read something about Christ, who told that person exactly what I'm telling you this morning, and that person took it to heart, and they read the Word, they prayed, they put something in front of me, and guess what? You were the one that they put, you were that one in front of them. And now there's somebody out there that needs you. Because you are the one that can lead them to Christ. Christ is the one that can do this. Let's bow our heads.